What is Fields looking for in an extension? Justin Fields should be starting with Daniel Jones's number. That's the league. You might hate it. You might think it's insane. This is the quarterback market.
You might not like it,
yes,
but respect it.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here with where we're at with Justin Fields.
100%.
Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Joining you for a very special Fix Your Franchise edition of the show. It is the Chicago Bears. This is probably the most anticipated Fix Your Franchise of the offseason. It feels like, Connor, every other episode of Fix Your Franchise that we have done, the comments are littered with, do the Bears, do the Bears, do the Bears. And
true.
Honestly, we were obviously going to get to it at some point. We wanted to let the season play out because the Justin Fields, Matt Eberflus coaching decisions were going to loom large in how we went about this episode. But now that the season is over, now that that book has closed, if you will, we can fully go through all those pages, assess it how we need to. We're, of course, going to give you a breakdown of all that stuff. We're to talk about Justin Fields, what it looks like if they keep him, what it looks like if they don't, their free agency money the team needs. And just because we love you guys, we're going to do two different Chicago Bears 3-round mocks at the end of the show, one keeping Justin Fields and one moving on from him. Connor, we're going to pack a lot into this episode, my friend. I hope you're ready for it.
I am. And you laid it out perfectly of why we've waited. It's been worth the wait. There was a lot of variables with this team that it would have been a waste to fix them in October or November or whatever it may be. Number one is, now we have in concrete 2 top 10 picks and where they are, number 1 overall and number 9 overall. Like you said, Trevor, we had no idea what was going to happen with this staff. The head coach stays. Obviously, Ryan Poles, the GM, stays. The offensive staff is wiped out. They're currently requesting interviews. We'll go over some of our thoughts there as well, considering the ramifications and the effect that offensive staff will have when it comes down to the development of this offense going forward with a lot of key young players. So this is a big one. There's no way around it. The Bears have as many assets really as anyone when you factor in cap space, draft capital within this year, and just the power they have in this draft, that this one is really, really important for not only how it sets up the Bears, but the trickle effect of everything else.
Yeah, so there's a lot to get into when it comes to that free agency spot. You mentioned some of the money that they have to spend, but we're going to go through a little bit of the roster, make some cuts that we think are going to happen. So actually they have even more money to spend than what is currently like out there. Like if you project this or that, like we've got some cuts on this team that I've read about this, like, all right, this is probably going to happen. So we got even more money to play with. We got 2 first-round picks to play with. And when we go through the draft and we trade number 1, if we're keeping Justin Fields, that's even more picks on picks. Man, it's what the show was built on. The imagination and the creativity here for the Chicago Bears it's going to make for one of my favorite episodes. Let's start at the top, though. Obviously they don't move on from Matt Eberflus, their head coach, but I do want to kind of recap a little bit of where he's at and the conversations about him going into the offseason, because I do think this is now a completely make or break year for him coming up. So he just finished up his second year as the head coach for the Chicago Bears. Currently, before that, he was the defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts under Frank Reich. So they hired him a couple of years ago. So he just finished his second year. He was 3-14 in 2022 as a head coach. The roster was cheeks, so they weren't really going to do much better than that. 7-10 at the end of this year. So certainly got a lot better. And I think things started to really turn around towards the second half of the season. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, so Eberflus's side of expertise, they were 32nd in the NFL in EPA per play allowed in 2022, his first year. They were 15th this year. So it was a major jump forward. I think the defense got a lot better. A lot of young players improved and got a lot better. But on the other side of things, offensive side, they were 22nd in the NFL in EPA per play on offense in 2022. 23rd in 2023. So stagnant. It did not improve. It did not get better on the offensive side of the ball. And that plateau not moving in the right direction is why they move on from their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. And before we kind of get into that, wondered your thoughts on Eberflus. Do you feel like they should have moved on, or do you like the fact that both him and Ryan Poles stay married together, if you will, And this now just becomes we got to figure this out this upcoming year or both of us are going to get fired. What do you think about this?
This is a tough one, right? Because in a vacuum, I don't really have a problem with Eberflus as the head coach of this team. But under these circumstances, it is a little surprising, right? When you think of what the odds are of him really being the guy for the long term, right? And whether it was ownership, whether it was polls, everything. The bottom line is Eberflus, the second half of this year, especially after trading for Montez Sweat, this is a defense that really, really figured it out. And I think that's something he was hired to do. Now, the other side of it that you can get hung up on, that I'm a little hung up on as we do this show, is, man, this coaching pool looks really good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The guys that are out there. And secondly, the risk here of turmoil for a young quarterback is what scares me, right? Let me say it like this. And I know this is a lot of but and ifs and whens. Say they nail the offensive staff hire, and I'll use Shane Waldron as an example because they've requested him. Say they nail that one. Shane Waldron, they take Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams wins Rookie of the Year. Somebody like what might happen to Bobby Slowick in the Texans, by the way, right now, hire Shane Waldron as your head coach, or the other way around, Eberflus bottoms out this year and they fire him anyway after a year. You're already creating some turmoil for the number one overall pick that we think is going to be a quarterback. We're going to lay it out both ways if they keep Fields, and it doesn't change if they kept Fields because Fields has been through a ton of turmoil on the offensive side as well.
Right.
So it feels like they wanted a little stability, but ironically, they might have kind of evaded that. Just a year from now, it might come down.
So you're saying that, like, even if Eberflus nails that offensive coordinator hire, the fact that Eberflus himself is not an offensive-minded coach means that a big voice in the ear of whoever the quarterback is going to change no matter what.
Yeah, it could. And even if it doesn't, I think there's a reality too where I want to see, I think what needs to be fair is I do want to see who they could hire, because I don't think Eberflus is the most steady situation in the NFL right now. And that will give some offensive minds maybe a little bit of reservation. We'll see. Maybe they'll nail the hire and there was no reservation at all because this coach is excited about working with upgraded offensive personnel and going to Chicago. I think what it comes down to for me, though, when you combine that factor with the fact that Vrabel's out there, Harbaugh's out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right job for Belichick and Pete Carroll. Like that, I'm not saying that. But those guys will probably affect all of this coaching cycle that maybe you could have went out and got a Vrabel. Maybe you could have went out and got a Harbaugh. So I don't hate keeping Eberflus. I think that's what I want to make clear. But I think there is a feeling of, is this really going to work? I don't know. I don't feel great about it because how many times was a coach this close to being let go? And then 2 years later, like, thank God they kept him. There's not a lot of examples of that in the NFL, if I'm being honest.
No, right. And it, you bring up a really good point of the caliber, or I'll just say like allurement of the guys that are available right now in the coaching pool. Certainly offensive coordinator, they could still dip into that and that's fine. But, you were firing your offensive coordinator anyway, so you were probably going to dip into that pool no matter what. And so you could have done that with a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. Maybe that does set up a little bit cleaner of a timeline. Because, I agree with you. I don't hate Matt Eberflus. I think fans can point to, some in-game decision-making and things like that. And yeah, he has not been perfect, but there's not many head coaches that are perfect. Sometimes it's just better years than others when it comes to timeout usage or fourth down decisions or just like how aggressive you are, certain game plans, certain game scripts. Like, it's only his second year as a head coach. And so he's learning this as well. I think it's realistic to believe going from 3-14 the first year, 7-10 the second year, it's realistic to think, hey, another good offseason, a lot of money to spend in free agency, a lot of potential money to spend in free agency. You can get a handful of impact players, maybe in free agency, maybe in the draft as well, a combination of those, you can make a fight for a playoff spot next year. I don't know if you're overtaking Detroit. It depends what kind of Detroit's offseason looks like. Depends, Ben Johnson's out of there, which we assume that he is. Depends if Aaron Glenn's out of there, which it kind of looks like he might be. So maybe you're not making a run at Detroit, but they're close. They just got to figure out the offensive side of things. So it is tempting to get into this head coaching pool, but I don't hate it. I really don't. Now, look, players can say quotes like this and pump up their head coach all the time. And you hear players kind of pump up their coaches because they don't want to throw them under the bus. But I read this from an interview. The Montez Sweat said this after the season. He said, "Oh yeah, I love Flus. He's smart. He's innovative. He listens to his players. He trusts his gut. He trusts his players. I'd love to see Flus come back." And that's cool. That's really cool to see.
Great to see. And
that's great to hear from the guy that you traded for, who then was a major impact player on defense.
Great trade.
He's going to be a cornerstone for you moving forward. On the flip side, you got DJ Moore being asked about Luke Getsy, I think before Luke Getsy got fired, and DJ Moore said, "Yeah, he's fine." Right. You're like that. You might as well just like back the truck up over somebody's dead body at that point to call somebody fine. And you don't really, at least I haven't heard that from Eberflus. So I think a lot of Chicago Bears fans, at least from what I read, wish that they would have cut ties with the whole coaching staff.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I don't hate it for Eberflus. Let's move on to the offensive coordinator spot, because Luke Getsy was the offensive coordinator over the last 2 years. He was Green Bay's pass game coordinator under Matt LaFleur, I think for 2 years before then. It hasn't been good enough, man. He was brought in to really improve Justin Fields, and not that that's all Luke Getsy's fault, but it felt like when you're watching Chicago Bears games and when you're really getting into the film, it's like, sure, Fields is doing things that are self-inflicting wounds, but at the same time, like the spacing's bad on some plays, the design is not good on some plays, like some of the play calls on certain down and distances, just like, man, what's Fields supposed to do? And not every offensive coordinator is going to be perfect. Very few of them are, but it needed to look a lot better than what it was looking like under Luke Getsy. So he ends up getting fired. I have a handful of offensive coordinator candidates that I would be very interested in seeing for this team. But I wonder, do you have a certain list? You mentioned Shane Waldron. Is he number one on your list? And was there anybody else that was kind of like on the high part of that list for you?
I'm glad they put in for him, honestly. I would love this hire with Shane Waldron. I think there's two things that stick out to me. Number one, it's funny how people view Shane Waldron now. Not view. I've seen just a lot of Seattle fans in general, not all of them, but be like, "Oh, he sucks." So it's like, okay, the Geno Smith turnaround didn't happen until Shane Waldron. Okay, that was Shane Waldron's offense. And Geno did a lot himself, but let's not completely take away the guy that was calling the offense here. Also, 2 years ago, when their line was healthy, they drafted 2 rookie offensive tackles and did a hell of a job with them. And that's Waldron as a play caller and Andy Dickerson, their offensive line coach. I would think that after how things ended in Seattle, and we've seen on Twitter that staff's been told they can go find jobs, basically, Waldron just brings some of his staff with them. So you get somebody that's proven to develop young offensive linemen, which is one of the hardest things to do in this league.
Yeah, truly.
Get the most out of the quarterback position. And then let's be fair to Shane Waldron. He worked under Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is the king of being in his offensive coordinator's ear saying, you have to run the ball more. So I think with a little bit more freedom, and Pete Carroll's a legend, and a lot of the times he was right when they won all those games. But the bottom line is, I think Waldron could be even better. So I think this is a guy that, coming from Seattle, has a staff that he could bring with him. Not verbatim, but some key people. And he's somebody that we've seen improve quarterback play from where it was judged before, work with young offensive linemen, design an effective run game. That's one to me that if they hired, I would have less questions about than a lot of the other ones where I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it won't. But with Waldron, I see a floor that I would feel really, really comfortable with.
I love the Waldron idea. And to be honest, of course, I didn't think that he was going to be available, especially for a lateral move, right? If you wanted Shane Waldron in your organization a week ago, you were going to have to hire him as a head coach. And now you don't have to anymore, which is wild. But here we are. So I think that he would be a great candidate. I like that one. There's a couple more that I want to throw out at you. And I'm curious if you are intrigued or if you're on board or if you're just like, no, I'm not down with this. The first one is sort of similar to that of Shane Waldron, is Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's getting head coach interviews as he has in the past, but he's in a similar situation to that of Waldron. He was the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. They fired Brandon Staley, so he's basically free to go wherever he wants. And he's been the OC for the Chargers. He was the OC previously with the Dallas Cowboys. He's worked with two fantastic quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. He's orchestrated very good modern offenses that do kind of what you want to see. The play action, the pre-snap motion, and not that those are always prerequisites to great offenses, but they are at least hints that this guy's willing to evolve. He's willing to go to what is successful in today's NFL. And so that's been great to see. I think the passing offense has been good generally when they've been healthy for both squads. So I like the idea of him in Chicago to potentially work with Justin Fields and however they're going to revamp that wide receiver room. Thoughts on Kellen Moore? You don't have to give like super big thoughts, but like, you on board? You intrigued? Is it a hell no? Thoughts?
It's right in the middle. Like, I wouldn't be excited about.
Okay,
Kellen
so you're
Moore.
intrigued. You're intrigued.
I'm intrigued. You could do worse. I do have a little bit of an issue with how much better Dallas's passing attack looked when Mike McCarthy took the reins back and Moore left. That really is something that just bothers me. But
Big Mike McCarthy believer.
I mean, Dak was incredible this year.
He was.
And CeeDee Lamb was incredible this year.
He was indeed. It's
so I'm in the middle on that one.
Okay.
Definitely below Waldron, but he'll probably be above some more names you're going to throw at me. I would have to imagine, considering how this thing goes.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. Frank Reich. All right.
Can't do it.
All right. Hold on. Wait. Give me a second. Let me send it.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'll hear you out.
Former Panthers head coach. All right. So Frank Reich, not the most popular man in football America right now because of how things went with the Panthers, but we know the Panthers are very dysfunctional. So it might not have all been Frank Reich's fault. That's all I'm saying. Eberflus and Reich obviously have a relationship because Reich was the head coach in Indianapolis when Eberflus was the defensive coordinator in Indianapolis before he went over to Chicago. So they got that connection there.
Yep.
They got that stepbrothers, best friends kind of connection. How do you feel about it?
Bringing your friends is great. Just ask the Jets with Nathaniel Hackett after with Aaron Rodgers.
All right, when you put it that way.
It's phenomenal. You'll never regret anything.
All right, so you're out on Frank Reich. Okay.
No, I think Reich at this point of his career, at least from what we saw last year in Carolina, my goodness. The best move for him this year is to go to an organization and whether you want to title it quarterbacks coach, assistant head coach,
senior offensive analyst.
Thank you. Senior offensive consultant. Like that's where he's at, where he's in the room with the quarterback and he can give some pointers. And it feels like he needs a year of just a little, it's like Anchorman, right? You might want to lay low for a little while.
That's
perfect. Where I was trying to get.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank killed the guy.
Yeah, he almost did.
Been meaning to talk to you about that.
Yeah, he almost did.
All right, so okay, the next one on the list. So we're low on Frank Reich. How about this one? Ken Dorsey.
Okay.
All right.
The villain of the Bills Mafia.
Bills' former offensive coordinator. And look, obviously things turned around for the Bills after they moved on from Dorsey. But it's not like things were bad with Dorsey. Right when he got fired as offensive coordinator in the middle of the season, because honestly, the Bills just needed a spark. Something needed to change for that team. But the reason why a lot of people felt like it was a scapegoat at the time is because they were fourth in the NFL in total points scored at that point. They were second in EPA per play and second in successful play percentage. They were third in yards per play. They had a touchdown drive rate of 29.8%, almost a third of the time. No team in the NFL at that point had generated a positive EPA on a greater percentage of their offensive plays than the Buffalo Bills. So, yeah, the Bills season kind of like turned around, and it was this, I don't know, I don't even want to say like inspiring change, because I don't even know if moving on from Dorsey was the actual catalyst for the change. But what he was doing when he was the offensive coordinator was working. And you tie that into the fact that he had a quarterback with a similar skill set to that of Justin Fields. These are two of the best dual threat quarterbacks when it comes to potential, not necessarily execution. Justin Fields still getting there in the passing game part of it, but these are similar mold type of players, very high tier athletes, big arm. You can do a lot of things with their legs. I kind of like this one. Unless we find out that Dorsey was literally like hated in the locker room, and that's why the Bills season turned around. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. And if that's not the case, man, then I would actually like this in Chicago.
That one's the trickiest one, because the Bills offense looked a lot better after they fired him, even though at the time it felt like a, fall guy situation, scapegoating, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, Dorsey for years was described to us as this up-and-comer, very bright guy, very smart. So that I fall into the Kellen Moore bucket with that one. I don't love it, but I think there is some upside there. But I do. The Bills are such a weird one too, right? Because there's no denying Josh Allen, at least from a turnover-worthy play perspective, regressed after Brian Daboll left. But that's also just kind of the nature of Josh Allen to a degree.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen's almost like a roller coaster ride no matter what.
Right. There's really not a lot of people that can just completely, mitigate that side of him. So, yeah, I'm in the Kellen Moore bucket on that one.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting, though, like how little room for error there is with this one if they are drafting Caleb Williams or Drake May number 1 overall.
Can I at least get Ken Dorsey above Kellen Moore and below Shane Waldron? Can I at least get it number 2?
No.
God.
I think I'd take Kellen Moore.
What do I got to do over here? Okay.
You're doing great.
Right. So I got 2 more.
Okay, this is great.
They're wild cards. You're going to hate both of them. All right.
The Frank Reich line, above or below?
One of them's me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, one of them's
done. Number 1. Somebody tweeted us saying that you and I should duo coach Alabama or take over Alabama as a duo.
Sure.
It was very funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't think of a worse idea.
Dude, I think it's funny. Everybody has been talking about like, oh, nobody wants the Bama job right after Nick Saban. Like, you don't want to be the coach right after Nick Saban. You want to be the coach after Nick Saban, right? Which makes sense. But I've seen so many people tweet that out. I'm basically like, I'll coach Bama. Give me the money. I don't care.
What do you get? 15 mil?
Sure.
15 mil over, we'll keep it light, 4 years. I'll go out there.
Easy.
And do I get a real staff that actually, like, I'm not calling any plays.
Right. You could hire whoever you want. You could hire whoever you want.
Right. This is done. I'd absolutely.
And you have one of the deepest pockets.
Right. I'm going out and buying a roster.
Nick Saban's literally around because he doesn't want to see the program fail. So you're basically leaning on Nick Saban. I'll coach Bama at this point. Yeah. Let me do it.
It's not this awful job everybody's making it out to be.
Anyway,
turns out being rich and having the most recruiting power in the country is a good thing.
No, it's for the birds. Yeah, so the next one's Nick Saban. No, I'm kidding. It's not.
Oh, my goodness.
But I don't know.
Offensive coordinator Nick Saban.
I don't know. This one might be as funny. People keep talking about Cliff Kingsbury. So I got to throw his name out there.
Yeah, you have to.
Cliff Kingsbury, former Texas Tech head coach, former Arizona Cardinals head coach, former offensive coordinator for USC, just known as this offensive guru, right? And I don't think anybody's giving him the reins to be a head coach again.
No, it's not him. It's not him.
But to be an offensive coordinator, I think the day will come when he will be an offensive coordinator again at the NFL level if he doesn't jump back to college first.
You ready for a surprise?
Are you throwing?
This is number 2 for me. I'd have him only below Waldron.
Who?
Cliff. I'd have him above Kellen Moore and Ken Dorsey.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You madman.
No, it's really not.
It's just because he's handsome, isn't it?
He's a good-looking guy, good style.
It's the sunglasses sponsorship, isn't it?
It's all good. I think that Cliff is the classic case of a guy that is not an NFL head coach, as we've seen. It's just not his demeanor. It didn't work for a lot of reasons. I think Cliff is the exact kind of guy that you would want to staple to a Caleb Williams or a Drake May. That's what I'm thinking of with this hire. I'm not thinking of like who's going to be pass over expectation. And I mean, these things matter, but I'm thinking first and foremost of the number 1 overall pick. And maybe offensive coordinator is a stretch, but at a minimum, I think he would be a great quarterback coach on the staff. And I like him more than Dorsey. Maybe he's not above Kellen Moore. But I don't think he's like, when you were about to throw a name at me and you were like, it's going to be below everyone, I was expecting something terrible. I think we've gone too far on Cliff Kingsbury because he wasn't a good head coach to think he just doesn't know shit about offensive football, which is insanity to me when you know Cliff's background.
I also look at Steve Keim's background as a general manager, and he had to work under Steve Keim, and Keim's one of the worst general managers that we've had since the turn of the century.
Their drafts were certified cheeks.
Their drafts were horrendous. Their team building was horrendous. And so, yeah, I think you bring Cliff in, and Cliff obviously had an input on a lot of those things. So I don't think he's blameless, but you know, a lot of times you've got to have a general manager that kind of like maybe pushes what your opinion is into maybe a better direction, a different scouting direction, something. And whatever direction Keim was pushing it in sucked. Sorry. I got one more.
It does. It's amazing they won 11 games in a season.
I got one more.
Under him. Go ahead.
Dan Mullen is the other one.
That's the last place.
Dan Mullen is the other one. And I figured that it would be last for you. And even when I thought about it myself, I was
like, it gave me chills.
I was like, God, no. But here's the thing. Dan Mullen is a really good football coach.
Sure. No denying that.
He coached Dak when he was at Mississippi State, and he made him into an SEC record breaker. He coached multiple high-scoring offenses at Florida, including a monster of an offense that had Kyle Trask leading them with Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney. This dude knows how to call plays. Yeah. He knows how to be an offensive coordinator. The thing that Dan Mullen hates is recruiting. And that's why he failed at Florida. And that's why he burned out so hard at Florida, because he essentially stopped recruiting. He doesn't like it. He wanted an NFL job. And I think that he's kind of sitting around still waiting to potentially get a gig. And that is the far out name that I just wanted to throw out there as I was thinking about this exercise. And I was like, look, if they aren't able to get all of these other hotshot offensive coordinators in the building, I don't think Mullen's the worst you could do. Because I think he is a good football coach. He just did not like recruiting, and that was his demise when he was at Florida and while he was at the college ranks. But I think he wants an NFL gig, and I think he's a really smart offensive play caller. So
it's an interesting one. I to be fair, I just don't know enough about how his transition to the pros would be. That's my biggest holdup. But
all right,
I think there's a lot of risk there.
All right, there we go. We threw out the offensive coordinators. We're going to talk about Justin Fields next. We're going to get to Justin Fields. We're going to talk about Ryan Poles. We're going to get into the team needs, the free agencies, all the good stuff. But had a question for everybody out there. Is 2024 bringing either exciting or unexpected changes to your life? Well, here's a secret weapon to help you face those challenges with more confidence. It's great term life insurance policies. Yes, really. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to protect your family's financial future so you guys can focus on what is ahead, knowing that your family is protected if something unexpected happens. It was designed by parents for parents to help you get high quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policies in less than 10 minutes. They've got flexible policies that'll fit your family's budget with quality policies like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. You can get a personalized quote in just minutes and apply whenever it is convenient for you, all online and to your schedule. Go from start to covered, less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. You can join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family and apply today in just minutes. We're at meetfabric.com/stock exchange. Meetfabric.com/stock exchange. That's MEET fabric.com/stock exchange. Policies are issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right, the Justin Fields conversation.
Yeah, gotta have it.
Gotta have it. No other way to have it. Here's the thing with Fields. A little bit of an overview, and then would love to hear your thoughts on him, because there's a lot that goes into it. I think that there are sort of separate conversations between judging how Fields has been over the last year as a player versus his situation contractually, financially. These are two different conversations, but unfortunately, you do have to marry them because that is the situation that they are in. They cannot remain in a vacuum. You have to talk about both of them. Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State, was drafted in the first round by this team 3 seasons ago. He's got a 4th year and a potential 5th year option still on his contract. This year, he will be going into that 4th and final year. And I think they have until May. I think May is when they would pick up the 5th year option for him. The 5th year option for him, by the way, would cost somewhere around like $22 million. So still, if you think that this guy is a franchise starting caliber quarterback, bargain for you. But it's still a price increase from, I think, the $6 million that he is on the books for his 4th season. Passing grades from Justin Fields since 2021 to now, so the last 3 seasons. It was a 60.8 his first year, 54.4 the next year, 67.1 this past year, so a career high. Passing grade under pressure for Justin Fields over the last 3 years. 33.1 his first year, not good. 29.4 the next year, even worse. 48.9 this year. It's not stellar, but better. Adjusted completion percentage for him over the last 3 years. 66.1 first year, 70.3 the second year, 72.6 this past year. So going up every single year. I will note, for some context, the average depth of target for him has gone down by about a yard every single season. So that goes into, obviously, how high of a completion percentage that you have. This is a number that I want to say before we totally get into the conversation. I kind of turn it over to you because I'm curious what you think of Fields right now. The average time to throw for Justin Fields, which gets into a lot of the notes that I have about him as a player and where he is. Average time to throw in that first season, 3.06. He was one of the only quarterbacks. Actually, I think he was the only quarterback in the NFL who started enough games to have an above 3.0 time to throw average. Last year's time to throw was 3.47. That's Caleb Williams at USC kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this past year was 3.47.
Wow.
So
that's high.
Sorry, 3.41, I believe.
Very high.
I'm going to double check that last one. But Connor, your thoughts on Justin Fields? What do you think about him just as a player overall? And then we'll get into kind of like where he is with his situation in the contract.
Undeniably has improved over these years. And I think that's very, very important that the trajectory is going the right way for Justin Fields. I think there are significant concerns that make you wonder if it caps his ceiling. And what I say about that is you talk about holding on to the ball for a very long time. The fumbles that are a large product of 1, holding the ball, 2, being a guy that leans on the run a lot, and 3, because he's a guy that leans on the run a lot, he gets hurt every year. And that matters a lot because he's not somebody that you could just go, well, don't run as much so you don't get hurt. Can't do that. It's something that makes him valuable. So I think where you land on it at the end of the day is there's a lot to be excited about with Fields. Like, if Fields gets traded to Atlanta or somewhere I feel good about it, I'm going to be excited and I'm going to talk up that move. Mm-hmm. But it's not just that simple for Chicago in this spot, because they are sitting there with an opportunity that is unique and rare that they have to, specifically Ryan Poles, has to weigh the balance of where he grades out Caleb Williams as a prospect and what you project him to be. At the end of the day, that's all, as a human being, that is all you can do with this process, is weigh out what you think a guy is going to be. If you're wrong, then so be it. And then since he didn't draft Justin Fields, he needs to go through his college evaluation and his pro evaluations of him over these last 3 years and evaluate where he thinks he will be in a couple of years. He also has to figure out, realistically, what is Fields looking for in an extension? And justifiably so. Justin Fields should be starting with Daniel Jones's number. That's the league. You might hate it. You might think it's insane. This is the quarterback market. Look at Derek Carr. Look at Daniel Jones.
Isn't it the Randy Savage line where he's like, you might not like it,
yes,
but respect it.
Right.
That's what we're talking about here with where we're at with Justin
100%. So that's a variable in all of this, where that number one pick is going to be pretty cheap for a while. That's another part of this as well. So for me, and I know this isn't popular, and you can do both. You can like Fields and think, man, like he could be a top 15 quarterback in this league. And I'll always have the some ball security concerns and staying healthy concerns, but the upside is very promising. And you could also sit there and go, well, through our evaluations, take away the financial aspect, which is a huge, huge part of this. We might project Caleb Williams or Drake May to be a top 8 quarterback. So we're going to take him and we're going to save the cap space and the money. And we're going to start with our offensive coordinator, by the way, that has a big say in this pie that you're hiring, whether he wants to go build his offense around Justin Fields or whether he wants to start from scratch and build this offense with Caleb Williams or Drake May. So I think at the end of the day, what they are going to do is they are going to trade Justin Fields. They are going to get day 2 compensation for Justin Fields. I will be very happy for Fields to get a fresh start somewhere. And I'll be happy for the Bears that ultimately at the end of the day, it's not an easy decision. It's not a no-brainer, but I think it's the right move.
Yeah. I see it similarly to you in a lot of ways. You know, when I watch Justin Fields, and I won't pretend to have watched every single snap, but certainly for this exercise and over the last couple of years, you keep tabs on it because it means a lot, right?
It matters so much.
Got the number 1 overall pick last year, and they decided to move on from it. And they were, it depends, right? Like you could say, oh, they were smart to do that because if they would have taken Bryce, obviously, I don't know if it would have looked great, but if they would have taken CJ, then maybe it
would have been geniuses
of a decision. But you know, I think that they made their decision. They stuck with it. The thing is, they got a great haul for that number 1 overall pick, and we'll get to that when we talk about polls in a second. But they got a really great return on investment for that number 1 overall pick there. You're lucky if you're a general manager that you are in such a position that you can trade a number 1 overall pick the way that they did last year. You're lucky if you get that once ever. And the Bears now have that decision twice in a row, which is pretty insane. And when I watch Justin Fields this year, he is getting better as a player. And I think he's playing with more confidence in a lot of ways. His first 2 years in the league, he just didn't look confident. People go, what happened? Where is the kid from Ohio State who was just an absolute monster in the college football playoff game?
Right.
You know, certain games, but like, where is this kid? He was not confident. He was not that same sort of player. He didn't have that same kind of trust in what he was seeing and what he was capable of, all of that. And I think you saw that over the last 2 years. This past year, especially kind of towards the end of the year, second half of the season, I think he got a lot more confident. But there are still parts of his game that are not as fast as they need to be. That time to throw average above 3 every single year, like some people are going to look at that and say, no, his offense is like forcing him off of the spot and he's got to scramble and that's like increasing the time to throw. I can hear that for some of it, but there are also some plays where Justin just holds on to the ball a long time. Like he's trying to read the field, but he's either like a pick late to get to his progression and like, okay, now that window is closed. Now I got to go to my next progression. So, and it's not always as fast and decisive as it needs to be. I think that certainly the pressure that he's had to deal with a less than ideal interior offensive line has forced him maybe into some bad habits when it comes to his mechanics and his footwork and trusting all of that. And I think that you see some deficiencies there from him. Ultimately, Connor, where I land on Justin Fields is that he could still be a starter in this league. I don't think it should be in Chicago.
Right.
Because I think we said this on the show that we did on Monday, the mock draft. Justin Fields, for as much as he has improved from the past year, he was not a viable starter his first 2 years in the league. If he continued to play like that, if he would have given you a third year of production there, we would not be talking about this. So he was not playing at a starter level for those first 2 years. This year, he's like kind of playing at a salvageable level. Like he'll give you the highs, but he'll also give you the lows. And having that kind of variance is tough. It's tough to start in this league. There are not many quarterbacks that get that chance to be able to do that when you're that high variance.
Yes.
So
you nailed it.
For Fields, it is a risk sticking with him. I don't want people out there to think that, oh, if the Bears go with Justin Fields, like that's the safer option because he's played NFL football before, right? People look at Caleb Williams, they go Drake May, and they go, well, hold on, whoa, wait a second. They haven't even played NFL football before. Why are you saying that they're going to be better than Justin Fields? It's like, okay, sure, we don't know that for sure. That is a risk. That's the risk that you take with all prospects. Justin Fields becoming a true starting caliber, playoff caliber quarterback is also a risk because for as much as he has improved, he's not that yet. So if you're going to take the risk no matter what, I think you take the risk on a guy that resets the quarterback rookie contract window for you. That's where I land on Fields. I agree with you. I think that he's got starting caliber ability. If he cleans some things up, if the processing gets faster, and I would love to see him in a fresh start with a new team and a new offensive coordinator, new voices, all that good stuff. I would love to see him hit the ground running from what we saw to end this season. But ultimately, I don't think it should be in Chicago. And for as much as we're going to go through the scenarios of, okay, if the Chicago Bears are keeping Justin Fields, here's kind of what you do in the draft. These are the drafts that we're going to do. We'll do that at the end of the show. But it sounds like, Connor, both of us are kind of the thought process that you got to reset that rookie quarterback contract window over what you have seen from Fields right now.
Yeah, that's where it stands. It's just, to me, it's the best. Now, it also makes it easier that this is a great quarterback class. I can't say it enough. If you're picking one or two.
Right.
I mean, not everybody will feel this way, but a lot of evaluators will be extremely high on Caleb Williams. They will be extremely high on Drake May. And that changes the dynamic of this conversation. Because with everyone else, like, take those two guys out of the class. Well, there's easier things to pick at with Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix and Bo Nix. And that's a conversation for the quarterback episode. And there are things to pick at with Caleb Williams and Drake May. I'm not saying they're not, but they are upper echelon quarterback prospects that realistically, a little secret for you, will probably grade out higher than where Poles had Fields in that draft, even though Poles didn't take him because he wasn't the GM of the Bears at the time. And that's a huge part of this.
Yep. I would agree. I think that's a good transition into Ryan Poles. So Ryan Poles going into his third year as the general manager for this team. Some notable trades. I think that he's had some interesting moves, like the trade for Montez Sweat. I was like, all right, buddy. Like, I think you're overpaying for this dude. This isn't going to work out. And what does he do? He ends up leading Chicago in sacks despite only playing there for a little over half a season. So he traded for Montez Sweat for a second-round pick this year. He also, not so great, traded a second-round pick for Chase Claypool, which was a disaster, and Chase Claypool is no longer even on the team. His first year, right after he took the job as a general manager, he traded Khalil Mack for a second-round pick. So this dude just loves moving second-round picks. I mean, that is just his bread and butter.
Yeah, wheeling and dealing.
And then, of course, the trade last year, the big one, was you trade number one overall for, you get DJ Moore, you get 2 first-round picks, and you get 2 second-round picks. And I think I thought that was brilliant from them. I thought that was they did very well to get where they needed to get while also getting a really good play. Can you imagine this team moving forward without DJ Moore? Like, can you imagine if they didn't include DJ Moore in the trade?
It looks so different.
And let's say like they had an extra first round pick, right? Let's say it was just plain old 3 first rounds, no DJ Moore, no extra day 2 capital. I mean, this roster would suck on offense if they did not have DJ Moore. It'd be bad, man. You'd hang your hat on Braxton Jones, hopefully Darnell Wright, Cole Kmet's good, and then some running backs that you're okay, like by committee. But holy cow, this team would be terrible without DJ Moore. So for them to get DJ Moore, I think it's at least a cornerstone for them moving forward. So good on him to be able to get him there. Notable draft picks, got Braxton Jones, I mentioned, left tackle in the 5th round. Good pick. I think Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon are coming along. Their first 2 selections in his first 2 year there. So I would say that those are good picks. Velus Jones pick, not great, admittedly. But when I went over this, I think there's more good than bad with Ryan Poles at this point, which I didn't think, again, when the trade deadline was coming around. So I'm glad that Poles is sticking around. I'm glad that he's getting another chance to do this, because I don't think he's gonna trade the number 1 overall pick again. And I think he'll have a chance to get a franchise-changing player at that number 1 overall spot. So what do you think about Poles? You like Poles?
I think he's been okay so far. I think that this is kind of that make your money draft, right? Like
Totally.
Because the resources you have. Now, the thing we do need to keep in mind here, while it's hard to have a real judgment about Darnell Wright, he's probably gonna be fine. And there were character questions, so that's fair rebuttal here too. But how will we look back on passing Jalen Carter, this team? That's something I've thought about a little bit.
Yeah, Jalen's
a tough one, right? Because
Jalen's tough.
Jalen's tough because I think not every situation was tailor-made for him. And the Eagles was definitely a good one for him to go to with the veteran leadership that they have. But when you just look at the talent, it is something to wonder about. And then I'll also say this. I thought Broderick Jones was better than Darnell Wright this year. Now, there's a lot of time for all of that, but this is nitpicking stuff. His drafts have been okay. What he'll make his money on is this year. And I think you brought up that he probably won't trade the number 1 overall pick this year. I agree. But I think number 9 is a prime pick to trade out of if you want. And the creativity doesn't have to stop here for Ryan Poles. And that's something that excites me. It's just because number 1 gets used, you could maybe get out of 9 and really make this draft that should be a great draft for them into an all-timer.
Yeah. I'm looking at it more, and obviously, like, Poles' free agent additions haven't been good, but
TJ Edwards is the only one that really.
And obviously, yeah, they shelled out a lot of money for linebackers, which is
always interesting,
kind of nuts. But
right,
I feel like they've been okay. A lot of the low tier free agents really have not worked out for them,
right?
So I think that's been a major issue. Because it is the GM's job to build the depth of the team. And I will say that for as much as I can highlight some of the moves that I've liked from him, this is, you kind of brought it up. Like, this is kind of make or break for him. He's got to nail this free agency period. He's got to nail this draft. And I think to this point, when it's come to free agents, he has not really been able to do that. The wide receivers that he brought in has not been good. The interior offensive line shuffling just has not been ideal. Like I said, I like Jones at left tackle. I think Wright will be fine at right tackle. Tevin Jenkins, I've been in and out of the lineup. Like, they moved Cody Whitehair. I think Lucas Patrick was bad at center. It's like Yannick Ngakoue on a 1-year deal. Like, he's been nothing for them. So there have been plenty of signings that they have made that feel like major whiffs, but they've been more of those low grade signings, which matter. But he has a chance at a lot of redemption here. I don't mean to sound like a Ryan Poles apologist, but it's like, to me, he hasn't had the big screw up outside. I
don't think so.
Outside of the Chase Claypool trade, which has not been good.
I mean, that was an undeniable disaster.
And if you want to argue, like, if you want to argue putting as much money as they did into the linebacker position, okay, I see it, but like, I think they've been okay since this point. I feel like you got to wait till this offseason is what I'm trying to say, to see what the plan was for them.
Right. And that's kind of what we're here to do.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get into free agency in a second. Got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks, the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Easily the most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more, you pick less. It is quite simply that easy. Instead of battling thousands of different players, including pros and sharks, you pick more, you pick less on between 2 to 6 players, and you watch those winnings roll in. We got an official Prize Picks lineup from one of our producers, Eli. He's cooking up a 5-player bet here for Prize picks. The first one's Jared Goff going more than 264.5 yards against his former team, the Rams. You got Puka Nacua, more than 78.5 receiving yards. Travis Kelce, more than 61.5 receiving yards. I don't know if that was going to hit now with the weather with Kansas City. It's going to be like minus 30 degrees, but maybe you could put that one as a less, and maybe
point total keeps going down.
Yeah. Jake Elliott, the kicker for Philadelphia, more than 1.5 field goals made. Again, could be an ugly, rainy game in Tampa, so maybe that means more kicks. And then CJ Stroud, more than 256.5 passing yards, which I love. Let's let CJ Stroud cook and go off here. You can share you could do basically whatever you want here at Prize Picks. You just pick those 2 to 6 players. You kind of wrap them all together. You can even play alongside rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz. They got like a community plays tab, which is really fun. You can see what those other guys are doing. So Prize Picks there's a lot of reason to get into the game here with them. Go to prizepicks.com/NFLSE. Use that promo code NFLSE for your first deposit match up to $100. There's prizepicks.com, NFLSE, promo code NFLSE for a first deposit match up to $100. You pick more, you pick less. It is that easy, folks, over at Prize Picks. So free agency for this team, for Chicago, a lot to talk about here with them. They have right now projected effective cap space, if you will, if you go to over the cap, is $36 million, which is, I think, like the 11th most. Maybe it's a little higher than that. $36 million in effective cap space is not too bad. However, looks like they're going to move on from Eddie Jackson. If they do that, saving another $13 million.
Okay.
And it also looks like they're going to move on from Cody Whitehair, who is the longest tenured player on the Chicago Bears, but he's going to be 32. He's going to cost a big chunk of change. They're trying to get younger on the interior offensive line anyways. I think he is also going to be a candidate to potentially be cut. That's another $9 million. So extra $22 million on top of that. We're talking like $55 million here that the Chicago Bears have to play with in free agency. Their big pending free agents get Jalen Johnson, they got Darnell Mooney, they got Yannick Ngakoue, and they got Justin Jones. I think those are the big four, unless I'm really missing somebody. But Connor, you and I were talking a little bit before the show. Jalen Johnson's, it feels like he should be you got to bring this dude back, right?
No doubt. That's the one you gotta figure out before you look outside.
And they gave him the chance to seek a trade at the trade deadline.
No, you got to mend that.
I have no idea what the relationship is. I don't even know if it's mendable. Right. But he graded out as an elite cornerback.
He was great this year.
You got him on one side, you got Tyreek Stevenson on the other. I think that's a really nice cornerback duo. You've got Jaquan Brisker. You got Kyler Gordon anyways. I think that's a really nice young secondary, even moving on from Eddie Jackson. You have your 2 linebackers. All you got to do is get better up front. And Connor, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think Chris Jones leaves Kansas City. But if Chris Jones does leave Kansas City,
go do it.
This is a team that can throw some serious money at Chris Jones and say, come play on the defensive line. The secondary is getting better. We're bringing back Jalen Johnson. We're getting Chris Jones. You got Montez Sweat. And then, dude, if you go quarterback at 1 and then Dallas Turner at 9, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. But then
we'll get to the mock draft. Settle down.
Think of that team, though. All of a sudden, that defense, you got the players. You got the horses all of a sudden. And for the longest time, what have we said about Chicago? Oh, they don't have the players. They don't have the depth chart. They don't have the roster. Boom! You fix it right immediately. Trading for Sweat, signing Chris Jones. That's the dude that I would go after the most, is Chris Jones here for them.
I mean, that'd be awesome. And if you can't figure it out, to bring back, which you should be able to bring back, Jalen Johnson, I'd go after L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas City as well.
Oh, just bring them both over.
Oh, make a play, or that would be my play. If you really can't figure it out with your own guy that deserves to get paid.
Yeah, that would not be good.
What do you think about, because they spent a lot of money on linebacker last offseason.
Mm-hmm.
They've invested resources in this secondary through the draft. Either bring back your own guy or go get L'Jarius Sneed. You brought up Chris Jones, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they need to go back into the edge market again?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to we must have talked about this with Washington, right? Where
because they paid Sweat So do they look to draft their other edge?
Did they officially play Sweat, or they still do that?
Is that just in my brain? Why did I think
you
got
traded
extended?
the second round? It's not like he's going anywhere.
No, he got the extension when he got traded. That's what I thought.
Okay.
I was like, did I just make that up? No way.
Right. So his contract's already on the books, which is great. But then, yeah, I mean, like, you can go as high as you want. You go after Bryce Huff. You go after Brian Burns,
Jonathan Grenard.
Right. We brought up Jonathan Grenard.
We've done this whole.
But that's where I would go. If the episode is fixing the Chicago Bears, when I look at free agency, I'm spending most of my free agent money on the defensive side of the football. Go get another interior defensive lineman. I mentioned Chris Jones, but like Christian Wilkins is hitting, well, in theory, hit the market. The Justin Madubuike from the Ravens is also like, do they have enough money to bring him? You know what I'm saying? Like, any of those guys, I think, is a big presence boost on their defensive line. You can maybe get another rotational edge rusher, then draft another one. And all of a sudden, like I said, linebacker room's got the talented players. The defensive line looks even better. The secondary should get better, especially if you're bringing back Jalen Jones. That's what I would do. That would be my free agent strategy for Chicago. I'd go after defensive line hard. I wouldn't I would not be bringing back, that's how words work, Yannick Ngakoue or Darnell Mooney, which, man, 2 years ago we were talking about Darnell Mooney as if he was going to be the next best thing. And I think similarly, Justin Fields, his best days are going to be not in Chicago, so they should move on from him. But that's what I do, man. I go D-line if I'm Chicago. Hard.
So, offensively, is there anything you're doing? Because like you said, Mooney can walk. Really wild to think he's 2 years removed from a 1,000-yard season, but that's just the reality of it. You got more there, which is great. But you also have the 9th pick in the draft that could be used on a wide receiver as well.
Right. I'm not spending heavy on wide receiver.
I'd get a value guy. I would go after one of these guys. I'd go after
let's hear it.
Curtis Samuel. I'd go after Kendrick Bourne. And maybe Noah Brown.
Okay. Yeah.
Or the other way, this is a big body guy, but like a Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those are all valued signings. They're going to cost you what? 1 or 2 years, $6 million per.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're talking and they're going to probably be your number 3 if you go in the draft and go get a number 2 like that. I would make sure you have depth at wide receiver for the young quarterback.
I would throw, I love Josh Reynolds.
Sure.
I would throw Josh Reynolds in there as well. I think Marquise Brown might be too expensive at that point. So I like him in theory, but probably not.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other free agents. Gabe Davis, no, I'm passing on him.
No.
Chase Claypool is a free agent, by the way.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, you didn't even think of that, did you? Yeah, there's a reason why you didn't think of that.
How about how DeMarcus Robinson has finished this season for the Rams?
A Gator great, baby.
It is unbelievable what he's done for the Rams down the stretch.
Yeah, I like the Kendrick Bourne call out too.
Kendrick Bourne was my favorite one of that group.
The call out. That's nice. Yeah, if you could get look, free agent strategy, all right? Get yourself Chris Jones, Kendrick Bourne, Johnny Grenard.
Done.
And you bring back Jalen Johnson. I don't even know if we went too high over. We probably did.
No, there's always money. There's always money.
All right. So look, that's what, and correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I'm doing, Justin Fields or not. So we said that we were going to kind of split this show in half, obviously, like talk about people that we bring in with Justin Fields, without Justin Fields. Right. My free agency strategy for this team doesn't really change.
No.
If it's Justin Fields, because I'm drafting offense anyways. I think that's where we're going to lean, whether you're taking a quarterback at 1 or not. I think that's where I'm going. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay, there we go. Those are our free agent targets. Those are free agent additions, which means now it's time. It is time to get into the 3-round mock drafts, plural, for the Chicago Bears. We do 3-round mock drafts, and Chicago has 3 picks as it stands right now. They have 2 first-round picks. They have number 1 and number 9. And then they also have pick number 75, which is in the 3rd round. Obviously, don't have that 2nd-round pick because they traded it for Montez Sweat. Connor, which one do you want to do first? We'll work through this together. Do you want to do the trade Justin Fields strategy first and then save the keep Justin Fields strategy for the end, or do you want to flip it? What do you want to do?
I think we flip it. I think we talk about what they look like with Fields.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about what they look like with Justin Fields first. So we're entering the PFF mock draft simulator. Obviously, everybody out there, we're going to be doing trades in this. And so if you have a PFF subscription, you can get like the fully unlocked trades and all that good stuff. You can even select players. All right here. Obviously, I don't think we've highlighted this before, but you can select all sorts of players that you could trade as well to make it as realistic as possible. So let's do it. Obviously, we're on the clock here at number 1, so we can hop into this draft if we want to. So we're keeping Fields, correct?
Correct. In this one.
Who's trading up? Who do we want to trade up? Giants 6?
I really have to walk away with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, okay. So
I don't know how excited I am about the idea of trading out of this pick, which I know is like ultimate contrarian. Everybody thinks, oh, well, you just keep Fields and you could trade the pick. Why would I not just take the best player in the draft that helps Justin Fields?
You were throwing the nastiest curveball at me that's ever been thrown.
Screwball. I spit all over it.
This is the Ephus pitch before anybody knew what it was. I still don't even know what it is.
Right, though? Is it that nuts to say, you know what? I'll just take the best player in the draft and the best wide receiver prospect since Jamar Chase.
Okay, look, it's nuts because you got to think about what you're giving up. You're picking Marvin Harrison Jr. with 1 pick.
Sure.
You're giving up 3 first-rounders to do so.
Do you really think that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe.
When we go through okay, you know what? You've convinced me. We're going to run through 3 mock drafts for this. We are. We're going to do this really quick, okay?
Okay,
we're going to do this. We're going to do this here.
Okay.
The first scenario that we're doing, we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1 overall. All right? Okay. So you took Marvin. You're just went full nuclear on everything the draft knows, and you go Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, who are we taking at 9? Odunze's on the board. DeShene's on the board.
We don't need a wide receiver. We signed Kendrick Bourne and drafted Marvin Harrison.
Yep. So let's go under the impression that we signed a wide receiver 3, a impact defensive tackle.
Okay, that helps here because Johnny Newton would have been in play.
Yeah, so I think that you're signing an impact defensive tackle, and then probably some other sort of edge rusher, maybe like a mid-tier edge rusher.
Sure.
Okay. So that's what we've got here.
Oh, wow.
Could go Fuaga and play him on the inside if you wanted to.
You could.
God, that'd be hilariously nasty to have Tevin Jenkins, Talize Fuaga, and Darnell Wright on the same.
That's pretty nasty.
That is pretty nasty.
Part of me here too is like, just take Dallas Turner, get a freak for the front 7.
I feel like they probably should.
I think that's the play.
Okay. So let's go Dallas Turner. And then we're going 3rd round.
Yep.
Yeah, who are we doing 3rd round here? Oh, I kind of like.
Yeah, Bullard jumps out to me right away
because Bullard can play slot for you full time. You can keep some of that versatility there.
Bullard definitely jumped out.
Okay, all right. I don't hate the Bullard pick. Tyke Smith's the same way. Tyke Smith, although Tyke Smith is more of the corner than the safety that Bullard is. So maybe with Brisker and what did Gordon mostly play this past year? I got to look this up. What were his splits? Where are we at here?
I'll pull it up.
I got it. I'm almost there.
Okay.
Hopefully. Damn, Kyler Gordon's got some sick hair in this picture.
I was thinking the same thing. Slot.
Okay, so they did play him in the slot.
Yep.
All right, so then if you're getting rid of Eddie Jackson, then Kyler's going to keep playing the slot. Then Bullard, yes, is the right play for them. I'm okay going Bullard. Unless you wanted a center. Ooh,
I would take Zach Frazier, and I wouldn't think twice about it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, let's get Zach Frazier on the line here. Okay, so
this draft rules. I mean, this draft is awesome.
This draft is sick. All right, A minus here. So for everybody, just to recap for everybody out there, Marvin Harrison Jr., we took him number 1 overall because Connor's an absolute sicko. We went Dallas Turner at number 9, the edge rusher from Alabama, and then Zach Frazier in round 3. So you got wide receiver 1. Marvin Harrison Jr. is playing with DJ Moore and Kendrick Bourne. You got Cole Kmet as well. You got Justin Fields at quarterback. The offensive line's the same, other than getting Zach Frazier to now play at center, which I like a lot. And then Dallas Turner is infused into that defensive line. It's got Montez Sweat now, Dallas Turner, an impact defensive tackle. All right.
A good-looking team.
All right, it's a good-looking team. All right, we're firing it back up. Okay, now we're firing it back up. So we got to think about that. Now we are trading this pick.
Right.
To who? Giants? Dude, I don't know if the Giants are that desperate, are they?
I don't see Joe Shane doing this, but
you know who's gonna be desperate?
Arthur Blank.
This team right here.
Arthur Blank.
The team that traded a wild amount of picks to move up to go get Julio Jones many, many years ago.
And tried to get Deshaun Watson.
Go get Deshaun Watson, and we're not able to do it. I think the Atlanta Falcons are a big-time sleeper team to trade at the number 1 overall. Okay. And I think we should do it.
By the way, obviously, a lot of people are probably sitting there going, well, you could have traded with New England and it's still got Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, it's not that simple, though, is the point.
Obviously, like, that scenario exists. You guys can go over to pff.com. You can do your own mock drafts.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. So I think, especially because you're moving all the way down to 8, you are losing
3 first-rounders.
You were losing 3 first-round picks. So we can't trade 2026 picks in this
doesn't matter.
But this is number 8. First-round pick in 2025, first-round pick in 2026.
Yep.
I even wonder, you're probably getting more than this, too. I bet you get...
Give me Kyle Pitts. Just kidding.
So Atlanta will get an extra 2nd or 3rd-round pick, depending on whether Calvin Ridley signs or does not sign with Jacksonville.
Okay. That's important to remember here.
Do we think that he does?
I think he leaves.
So then it would be a 3rd-round pick. So let's trade them 74. Okay. We'll do 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick here because that'll make the mock draft exercise more fun anyways. So let's force the trade. I don't care. All right, so now we got 8 and 9. We got 8 and 9 here. We are keeping Justin Fields. Damn, Jaden Daniels made it here. Who did Atlanta take? Okay, they took Caleb. All right. Ooh, Arizona went Rome. Let's go. Giants get neighbors. I always like looking at what actually happened.
See, this sucks for the Bears.
I don't know if it sucks.
It's not great. I would take Brock Bowers as one of these picks, even though I already paid Cole Kmet. I think you could use Brock differently.
Yeah, normally Rome makes it here, but Rome did
That's
not.
why I'm saying it sucks.
Okay, so let's go. You want to go Brock Bowers?
I think I would have to take him with one of these 2 picks, just out of overall impact.
Okay, we'll go Brock with the first one. And then still Dallas Turner.
You're still taking Dallas Turner, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so Dallas. Now we have 2 3rd-round picks now because the Falcons picked, though. Oh, wow, they're back-to-back. Look at that. You love it when everything comes together. All right.
Poles is just dying to take Peyton Wilson. How many linebackers can he accumulate?
We don't need that.
Show me the wide receiver depth at this
Bullard,
point.
I still love.
Okay, yeah, I would go Bullard in the spot.
So I think we should really think about Bullard. I don't know if Certivante is even going to declare, so we're still kind of like on the... Man, let's go. Let's see what we got with wide receiver. I mean, I like all these guys.
I like all of them. I don't know if I...
DJ's just obviously your wide receiver 1 at that point.
Yes, which is fine.
I'd be okay with McMillan.
I like Roman Wilson. I like Jamari Thrash.
Would you want Thrash here?
I would think I'd want Thrash, and he could play Mooney's role.
Man, I might rather have Roman Wilson then. I think Roman Wilson's faster.
Okay. That'll be interesting.
So you'd rather go the speed element?
Yes, I want speed here.
Okay. So we got, for those who are audio only listeners, we got Jalen McMillan, we got Johnny Wilson, Roman Wilson, Jamichael Stuyvesant, Jamari Thrash, Malachi Corley's here, which I think Corley's interesting, but we just drafted Brock Bowers.
Right. So, all my manufactured touchers are going to Brock Bowers and DJ Moore. I don't need to fit in another guy that needs screens and sweeps.
Okay, let's go Roman Wilson. He's a really well-rounded player. He's got really great speed. He's deep speed player, but he's a hell of a blocker as well. He's just an overall. You pick two really good offensive football players with Roman Wilson and Brock Bowers. You got guys that are going to give it your all, no question about it. And then I think the other pick is probably safety.
Bullard.
Yeah, unless there's. Oh wait,
we also could go back to our well of getting a center.
Yeah, we could go Frazier. You want to go Van Pran in this one?
Sure, we'll go. Yeah, we'll switch it up. Yep.
Okay. So we'll go Van Pran here. So the first mock that we did, we kept Justin Fields and we drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., Dallas Turner, and Zach Frazier. I think all three of them are absolutely starters for you.
Yep.
And then in this draft, we traded down from number 1. We got 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick. We got Brock Bowers, Dallas Turner, Roman Wilson, Cedric Van Pran. But then remember, you got 2 more first-round picks in the next 2 seasons.
Right.
Now we will finally see what it is like if we are moving on from Justin Fields.
Let me throw something at you.
Oh, God, another curveball? Jesus.
Yeah. So you traded down to 8, and you got the 3 extra first-rounders.
Yes.
Would you take one of the future ones and package it with 8 and go back up and get Neighbors? Let's assume Marv's just nobody will move out of the pick to take. Arizona's like, we're taking Marv. You're not coming into this pick. Piss off. But would you do that for Neighbors? I think I would.
You'd probably have to trade up with the Cardinals because Monty Austinfort has we know he's not afraid to move up and down. So
I don't know. I think the Cardinals would just take Marv if he's there. I don't think they'd even answer the phone.
Oh.
I think you'd have to go to the Chargers. Or the Patriots. Then you can get Marv if you were able to go to the Patriots pick, but they need a quarterback or Marv. We don't have to spend too much time on it. It's just something I kind of wanted to put in the air that you could also do with those extra assets.
So then you have a first round pick next year because you're going to trade the 2026 one at that point.
Yep.
I think you're going to try to. And then you're going to get Malik Neighbors. And so it'll basically be that draft that we had there, but it's Malik Neighbors instead of Brock Bowers.
Exactly. And one less future first.
That would be very interesting. Bears fans, tell us if that is actually plausible for you. There's so many different routes the Bears could go with drafts. But I think that's a really good shout out as another option for them. I think that's very interesting.
So now the most realistic one.
Yeah. Moving on from Justin Fields. Let's say, who do you want to trade for Justin Fields?
Atlanta with a second round pick.
Wow. We're just wheeling dealing.
We're very
high flying.
What's the Falcons hashtag?
Rise up.
Rise up. Duh. Wow. How did I forget that one?
Limousine riding. Jet flying.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Wheeling dealing. Kiss stealing.
I got to find my shirt that literally says all of that on.
Does it really? That's amazing.
I haven't worn it in a while.
Okay. So we are trading Justin Fields for a second round pick to the Atlanta Falcons. We're still on the clock at number 1.
Sweet.
Caleb?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to go Caleb here. 9. Brock Bowers still here? Dude, I moved Rome Odunze up because he's
and now you broke the mock draft simulator.
And now he's just like, look at this. We got quarterback, wide receiver. But look, it is not unrealistic to think the first 6 picks are going to be 3 wide receivers, 3 quarterbacks.
When I wrote a mock draft for NBC Sports that is free to read.
Wow, cool. If the original for once.
If you need more, yeah, I know, right? If you need more mock draft fixings after you listen to every second of this, you can go read it on NBCsports.com. When I did the exercise, Trevor, I went through the simulator a couple different times and my own picks, and I made every pick, obviously, so I wasn't simulating them. There was a couple scenarios where I got to the Jets at 10, and I was like, it's not likely, and I won't do this in the mock because people will think I'm willing it to existence or being a homer, that Olu or Alt, and it's not likely. One of the two could be there because of how hot everyone is on the wide receivers and quarterbacks.
There's just,
Tennessee will take one of the two.
At this point in time, in January, there are so many offensive needs for teams that are picking in the top 10 that when we go through mock draft exercises, until they fill this shit in free agency,
right?
We're just going to keep giving them wide receivers
and quarterbacks
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I agree. So, I mean, it's not to do a mock right now. It's not that far fetched to see that. So,
yeah.
We went Caleb at 1. Are we just keeping it the same? We go in Dallas. There's no Roma Dunze to tempt us.
Yeah, we'll probably take Dallas. Because this is the mock draft where I'm like, I really think this could happen.
Yeah. I mean, you could take Bowers again, but I don't think you need to.
I don't think you need
now
to.
That you have the second round pick.
No.
All right, let's go Dallas Turner. All right, we're going Dallas Turner again. If people are listening to this and they don't like Dallas Turner as a prospect, they hate this shit.
Yeah, we blew it.
You can look if you don't like Dallas Turner for whatever reason, you could put I don't care Latu, put Jared Verse in there. Doesn't matter.
Your edge 1 goes here.
Correct. That's essentially what it is. So now with the Fields pick, we are picking in the second round from Atlanta's selection. Oh, here we go, baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Jonah Ellis, tempting from. Well, no, we don't need an edge.
No, we don't need edge.
Wide receiver. We got A.D. Mitchell. We got Xavier Legette. We got Xavier Worthy.
I know who I'm taking.
We got Jalen Polk. You're taking Jalen Polk.
100%.
See, I'm not 100%. I'd take A.D. Mitchell.
Size speed is intriguing with Caleb. I don't hate that idea.
I'd pick A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell's also been a touchdown monster for them.
Yep.
Over the last 3 years, really. So
okay. All right.
I'm going to go A.D. Mitchell. I'm going to make the executive decision.
That's okay.
Okay. So we went A.D. Mitchell there. And then third round. So this is their pick. Oh, Devondre Sweat.
I think I have to take Devondre Sweat.
I don't know if he's going to be at 75. Damn.
Right. That's why it doesn't feel. He might, though.
Dude, Devondre Sweat, Gervin Dexter, and if it's Chris Jones,
we said
be
Chris
hilarious.
Jones. We said, yeah.
Hilarious.
And he's so different. That's the thing there. Than those guys. What you're asking those guys to do. That's why I like that pick.
Well, you're asking Dexter to gap, and they also have Zach Pickens too. So they have.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot they took two players. Okay, let's see what else we have on the board. I still want my damn center. That's the
Frazier. He's here.
Yeah, I would take Frazier.
I think I like that strategy the most.
Powers Johnson is gone, right?
Yes, he's long gone. I think he I would have also been
he's quite good at football.
I would have entertained Christian Haynes from UConn going to center, but he just got picked right before this.
Okay, I'm okay with Frazier.
Powers Johnson, he went 55 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
He's good.
He's good. He's really good. Depending on if you think that Graham Barton or Troy Fountainow are center prospects, if you don't, Powers Johnson to me is center 1.
He's the true center.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we go with your boy Frazier.
I think so too.
Okay. All right, let's wrap it up. All right, so if we're moving on from Justin Fields, we're getting a second round pick for him. We got Caleb Williams, Dallas Turner, A.D. Mitchell, Zach Frazier. This is the highest PFF draft grade that we got of the 3 that we did. That's a straight A.
And we said it was the most realistic approach.
And that was the most realistic approach.
I think we fixed the Bears. I feel really good. I was a little nervous about this one because the hype has been extremely high. The demands have been everywhere. I go to sleep and I just have YouTube comments in my brain of "Fix the Bears, cowards."
You're just cold sweat, and
I'm like, what if we don't do it right? But I think we did.
Well, I'll let the people decide that. You guys let us know what you thought of this episode and how we did when it comes to fixing the Bears. Let us know what you thought of our assessment of Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, Justin Fields, Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator.
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen, the free agency strategy, would love to hear about that because fans are always very creative about how teams can spend their money. And of course, we went above and beyond. We gave you 3 Chicago Bears 3-round mock drafts. Let us know which one was your favorite and why, if that was the same strategy that you would go with. We would love to hear whatever feedback that you have on this episode. Is the best part of when we do these Fix Your Franchise episodes. The best way to do that, of course, youtube.com/NFL Stock Exchange. If you are audio only, you can hit us up on X, on Instagram as well, at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers. We will be back next week with probably, what'd you say?
We'll see.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Who is the person who said, like, yeah, we might all be dead next week? Or
something? I was saying that. We'll be back. I just don't know what we'll be back with.
No, we might not be back at all. We might be. I was going way more morbid about it.
I do enjoy, I don't know if you ever noticed this, since you and I have both done other draft shows that eventually came to an end because all good things must end. Sometimes the comments are like, please don't ever end this show. Like there's a built-in fear that'll just be gone.
Whenever I see those, I respond to people, hey, if y'all keep watching and interacting and listening, we'll keep making it, man.
This
is a blast for us to do. We love this series. We love you guys. We've had a ton of new subscribers over the last 2 weeks, really, since the beginning of draft season has really started to ramp up. So welcome to everybody who is new. We appreciate you joining. Get in on the comment section. It's one of my favorite corners of the internet when it comes to a draft community. We do say this all the time, but maybe we do need to launch that Discord so people can kind of go back and forth and everything. But for right now, the place to do it is in the YouTube comment sections. We're reading and interacting with as much as we can because we enjoy it. But like Connor said, hopefully we'll still be around, next week, but we don't exactly know what we're doing. We might get back to one of the position rankings. I think corner is up next for us, so maybe we'll do corner. Probably have time to fix maybe 1 or 2 more teams before we get into, Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl.
That's the thing. You and I are going to be traveling for.
It's coming quick,
like
man.
Four of like 7 weeks,
dude. It's going to be a lot. This process is going to be so much fun. I'm going to love giving you guys updates of the All-Star events that we're going to. Of course, we'll have the Combine as well. All that good stuff. It's going to be a blast. But before all that, we will be with you next week. Let us know which team that you want us to fix next and what position group you maybe want to hear us talk about next. But until then, I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We'll see y'all next week.